flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Basil, would you do the roll call, please? Mr. Basil here. Mrs. Bice.
Here.
Mr. Doty.
Oh.
Mr. Kurtz.
Here.
Mr. Rathke.
Here.
Mr. Speed.
Here.
Mr. Stradowski.
Here.
Mr. Wolf.
Here.
Mr. Martino.
Here. Under announcements, under agenda edits, item 4C has been eliminated. Item 12C5. There are additional volunteers. In addition to the two names, there are Christopher Bickings, Daniel Brown, Heather Brown, Aaron Durso, Michelle Maggs, Julia Olafson, and Donna DiCillo. And then under item 15, transportation, there's a motion to approve a transportation agreement with Exeter School District for transportation by the Daniel Boone School District of an Exeter student to and from Community Service Foundation as presented. Are there any other agenda edits?
Wait, Mr. Martino, the top one.
I missed the first one. Under item 8F, there's a motion to approve the indoor drumline students. On your agendas, it shows 8F and G, and 8F on your agenda should be eliminated, and G becomes F, and so forth and so on. They all move up one.
So you're saying scratch 8F?
Yes.
Okay.
Move everything else up. Are there any other agenda edits? Seeing none. We had an executive session before, and we'll have another one afterward, after this meeting, to discuss employment issues and labor relations. And procedures for public participation, they're on the inside of the folder, which basically say, for those that may not have been here before, at the appropriate time in the agenda, come to the podium, state your name and address, and Mr. Wolf's machine will time the 3 minutes that will be allowed for making your comment on the agenda items. Are there any presentations by the public on any of the agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 7, recognition for March.
Thank you, Mr. Martino. We do have a recognition that we're going to make tonight, so why don't you and I move around to the front of the table and we can start. I've saved a lot of my recognitions for our student board representative. Tonight we are recognizing our middle school TSA students who have recently competed in the Region 9 conference, and that was held Saturday, February 21st. And tonight we are honoring all of the first place middle school winners. So congratulations, there was a huge list, and unfortunately we can't recognize every single winner, but we do like to recognize our first place winners. So, first with career prep, Zoe Sweet. Come on. Challenging Marketing Technology Issues, Hunter Sprickle and Zoe Sweet. Communication Challenge, Ryan Namely. Is Ryan here tonight? Oh, good. I'm sorry. Congratulations. Next we have Environmental Focus, Tyler Kay, Dan Holland, and Logan Krause. Next, for Leadership Strategies, Brianna McNamara, Jerry Williams, and Claire LeBlanc. Medical Technology Issues, Kim Afapa, Brianna McNamara, Claire LeBlanc, Ryan Ellis, and Aiden Slifer. Next, first place winner is Promotional Design, Ali Santos. And then we have STEM Animation. We have Eddie Barnett, Justin Semmer, Justin Pfeiffer, and Jake Brendel. And we're going to have you stand here for another one because I understand you guys are first place winners. They are also first place winners for water infrastructure, and that's the team of Eddie Barnett, Justin Semmer, Justin Pfeiffer, and Jake Brendel. Do we have a volunteer that might be able to explain to the audience tonight exactly what you do in your competition? Zoe, are you raising your hand? How did I not even know? Why don't you come up here and just stand right on the mic and tell us what TSA is and what do you do?
TSA is Technology Students Association, and you get to choose 2 events that you want to compete in, and you have certain guidelines that you have to follow. For Clear Flat or any competition, there's certain guidelines that you have to follow. If for Clear Flat, you have to make a resume and cover letter. It has to be based on 4 jobs, and you choose which job you want. For Challenging Technology, you are given 16 topics, and you have to research all 16 and debate them. It's all different competitions, and you can choose all 2 to 6 competitions to compete in. And you go to a regional competition, and then you can move on to the state and national.
And how many of you tonight have qualified for the next round?
A lot.
A lot. I believe all of you have. And what's the next round?
States.
There you go. And where is that going to be held?
7 Springs, Missouri.
Okay. Congratulations and good luck. Thank you. That concludes my presentation this evening, Mr. Martino.
Thank you, Mrs. Dorsey. Moving on to item 8, the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I motion for 8A through L, excluding G as amended. Second.
Motion by Mr. Wolf, second by Mr. Kurtz. Any comments or questions from anyone on the board? Seeing none, Mr. Basil.
This will be a unanimous vote for approval unless I hear any votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
I move item 8G.
No, that's
Oh, okay.
I withdraw that.
Moving on to item 9, presentations by board members.
Did you want to excuse the kids? Did you want to excuse the kids? Did you want to excuse the kids at all?
Yeah, and for all the award winners, you're more than welcome to stay, you and your families. But at the same time, if you wanted to leave, you're welcome to leave.
Did you get the email I got from you?
Yes. The parents usually ask. The parents usually ask for the homework. Yes, the middle school team. Claire.
All right, moving on to item 9, presentation by board members. Is there any secretary's correspondence?
There is an email from a Charlie Dre. I will read it to the board. It is inconceivable to me that the board is even considering closing MEC, the most efficient, lowest cost of maintenance and newest building in the district. I find it offensive that the board is even considering this insanity after sitting in the meeting last year when I personally urged the board to consider all the facts regarding closing BEC. Instead of the board reacted to the rantings of a small special interest group, and in the middle of that very meeting a motion was made and passed to spend significant money on BEC and keep it open. BEC should have been closed then and definitely should be closed now. What are we going to do? Close all the best conditioned schools, APC and MEC, and 5 to 10 years later build another $30 million school? Also, the idea of sending 5th graders to middle school is a really bad one. I drove middle school kids for many years. 6th graders are way too immature to be with 7th and 8th graders, get alone 5th graders. I would be glad to meet with the board anytime they so desired. Charlie Dre, a truly concerned old DB alumni and taxpayer. No date. I think it was received by the district on March 18th.
Thank you, Mr. Basil. Is there any other correspondence?
No, that was it.
Is there a Berks County Intermediate Unit report?
Yes, Mr. Martinez, thank you. We actually have a few things from our meeting last Thursday. First off, our lease agreement for the house over at the high school was approved by the IU board last week, so that should be all good. I think we, as a board, also approved that as well. Also have something maybe for Mr. Matz, not to catch him by surprise or anything, but I know there was a discussion by their technology director, I believe, maybe Mr. Matz can contact Mr. Miller directly, but that there was a decrease in the cost for the, are we in the consortium for the, yeah. I believe there was a decrease in the cost to the internet speed technology that was passed on to the consortium. I know several districts, I believe Mifflin, Muhlenberg, Reading, Votech, Kutztown, they've opted to actually increase their internet connectivity speed to actually, they're using the savings to do so. So I don't know where we're at with that, Mr. Mask. Maybe that's something you can actually look into, get back to. Maybe the facilities committee would think that would probably be one. Yeah. So, another interesting thing that came up was, maybe curriculum instruction can talk about this. The the Berks online learning that we use for our web-based students that are at home actually scored in the top 5 in the state for their scores for their curriculum and those courses. So I know we have quite a few students that use other cyber schools. I think this could be a very good marketing point for us. They bring some more students onto the Berks online courses. So we can get more information on that. I think a good selling point. I guess also this week, Mrs. Torshire, there's is it Thursday? There's a meeting with the DIU for all the superintendents.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess one of the things that we're talking about, I'm sure a few of us have heard, there's a bit of a tug of war between the Secretary of Education and the actual the state, our representatives that the Education Secretary wanted passed down to the superintendents to come up with all these great ways that they're going to spend the extra money that the governor had promised in his budget, and then there was immediate pushback from the legislative branch saying, hey, wait, that has not been passed yet. So it's kind of put the schools in a crossfire between the two. So I think we're going to have a discussion on that to see how districts should try to approach this. And, so have fun on that conversation. And then finally, I'll pass out, there's the summer workshops list came out. So for any teachers, administrators, maybe that something's in there to take a peek at. I'm sure you've already probably seen a copy of that. So I'll pass it around to the board to take a peek.
Thank you, Mr. Rathke. Any questions for Mr. Rathke or comments from the board? Hearing none, we'll move on to the Berks Career and Technology Report.
Thank you. The BCPC meets this coming Wednesday. We did meet at the end of February, and the major discussion at that meeting was on the budget. I had emailed that out to everybody a couple weeks ago, but basically there's 3 main areas that have changed, or 3 areas that are different than the previous year's salaries. Obviously, there's an increase of $216,000 or 2.98%, and that's due to contractual agreements. The employee benefits is an increase of $527,000 due to an increase in PSERS from 21.4 to 25.84, and a 6% increase in medical insurance. And then there's a decrease, actually, of $34,000 in the electricity savings due to lower cost per kilowatt electric contract. The total budget increase is a 4.5% increase, or $709,000 over last year's budget. The committee or the budget committee has recommended taking $353,000 out of fund balance, and then the average contribution increase to the member districts would be 1.89%. So we will be voting on this budget as the JOC this month, and then it will come to you next month for a budget vote. So that was really the main topic. The other thing is, I think most of you may have been aware that Dr. Lees, who was, it's not a superintendent, I can't think of what they call him, but our version of the superintendent there, and he has retired, so they are working on, they have a committee that's interviewing people, and they think they have found the selection, so they're going to be doing final interviews for that as well. So, thank you.
Any comments or questions for Ms. Radowski? Hearing none, thank you, Ms. Radowski. Moving on to the legislative report, Mr. Rathke actually gave part of my report, but that's fine. But let me just come back. The governor, the newly elected governor, has proposed a budget that raises the state income tax and raises the state sales tax substantially, and has proposed a reduction in school property taxes, but it's not uniform across the state. It depends on what school district you live in, how much of a cut you get, if any. He's also, his Secretary of Education, as Mr. Rathgeb said, has mandated each school district to present by May a plan for how they would spend the money in certain categories, even though we don't know how much money, if any, we would get. So we're supposed to plan for a what if. Word in Harrisburg right now is that the governor and legislature are so far apart that it may mimic one of Governor Rendell's budgets where no budget was signed until January, even though state law says June 30th. In fact, they're talking maybe we might not even have a budget until January. If that's the case, state appropriations stop June 30th, and we would have to live off our local taxes and our fund balance until such time as the state did send out money. So that all remains to be seen. No one knows how that's going to be resolved at this point in time. Locally, Mr. Small and I attended a Amity Township Planning Committee meeting last week, and Amity Township actually apologized to us for constantly repeating the fact that the developers don't want to build here because our taxes are so high, and they apologized for the fact that they realized this board did not put the taxes as high as they are. Amity Township is also having a workshop Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock, at which I believe they're going to be discussing potential new developments. So that's the legislative report as of now.
There's actually going to be a plan submission tomorrow, Wednesday, for the snail farm. I could be wrong, but I think that's...
No, that's expected by Wednesday morning, and it will be discussed that evening. According to the township manager, Chaz Lyon, he believes that they may start construction sooner rather than later, but I don't know for sure yet. I'll be there Wednesday evening, and we'll see. Are there any other questions or comments about the legislative report? Hearing none. Our student representative report.
First, I would like to recognize Mr. McKnight for he's our new principal. And I would say he did a great job of giving a student presentation to us last week at school, and we're all excited to see what kind of changes he brings in. For the sports team, our hockey team last Monday won the championship game against Twin Valley 2-1 in overtime, and Brendan Mavoli scored the winning goal. And to congratulate Ethan Rush, who's a junior, who won going to the state championship for the bowling team. For Odyssey of the Mind team is doing outstanding right now, and actually our other student representative, Ella, is on the team, and I asked her to speak about it for me, so. Sorry. So the Odyssey of the Mind team at the high school, we recently got first, and there's another team at the middle school. They got first, or was it second? First, okay. I was going to say, I know there's two of us from Daniel Boone who are going to state, so it's a really good thing. Thanks. I kind of want to look at you guys. For those of you who don't know, Odyssey of the Mind is a two-part problem. You're given, in the very beginning of the school year, till March, to solve a problem that they give you, and you have to present the solution to the problem, so you have to perform it in a skit, a musical, whatever you want to do, and you have to write out the script, you have to create all the songs, nothing can be copyrighted, it's all off the top of your head, you have to build the set from scratch, it's really, really cool. And then they give you another part when you actually get there, called spontaneous, which basically they put you in a room, and they give you 5 minutes to solve a problem that they give you right then and there, and you just have to go and solve it, and then they score you based on all the other teams in the region. And then when you get to states, they do all over the states, which is where we're going next. And then you can go to Worlds, where it's actually kids from all over the globe, and you all have the same problem that you're trying to solve. And it's incredible to see how people all over the world have, completely different ideas, the same problem and the same outline you have to solve for it. So it's an amazing program. I'd also congratulate the Academic Challenge team. They have also done a really good job this year. They recently just competed in the county championship, and
were just one question away from winning. They competed both against Exeter and Wilson, are both really strong teams. They defeated Exeter but lost to Wilson in a tie by the one question. So congratulations to them on all their hard work. Some events we had going on at the high school. Recently on Dr. Seuss Day we had the Seussical, which is run by the TBYEA, and they put a lot of time into preparation for the performance and everything. They did a really good job performing it. We have Relay for Life coming up on May 16th, and so far they've raised a lot of money for that, which is really good. We also have the Mr. Boone pageant coming up on April 30th, and that is run by Drama Club and Senior Class Council. And I'm actually really involved in that, and it's really neat, and we put a lot of time into that, and it's going to be a really good show. All we just need is administration just to prove some things of it, but it should be really good. And then some other things that I heard from students about curriculum, which I wanted to bring up earlier, but we ran out of time, but a lot of kids love the SAT course classes, but it's only reading right now, and a lot of them want help with the math proportion of it. So if they're wondering if you have something like that. And then a lot of kids like the traffic safety class. I wasn't sure if we'll be able to bring it back or not, but a lot of kids like it because they hear from I took it and they heard how much it helped us. And then for them to go take their permit test and driving test, it really makes them help them be a better driver. And that's all I got.
Are there any comments or questions for our student representatives?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schroeder and Ms. Sweet. After this meeting, there's an executive session up in Mrs. Torsh's office, at which time you'll be taking a picture of the board for the high school yearbook. You two should probably be with us, just for the picture. Moving on to, are there any other reports?
Yes, I have the Curriculum and Instruction Committee report. We met twice since the last meeting, and we discussed a variety of topics. We tried to clear up some of the loose ends from previous meetings, and a perennial topic for our committee is whether or not we should consider moving to a block schedule. There hasn't ever been any motions made in that direction, but we firmly decided not to do that. I mean, it's always been a discussion, but we will not be doing that moving forward. We had a meeting tonight to discuss elementary class size and the proposed addition of an AP course at the high school level, which we'd like to talk about tonight. But I'd also like to address, at the last meeting I encouraged the public to come to our Curriculum and Instruction Committee meetings because a lot of good things are happening there. We're talking about how we're making Daniel Boone a stronger school district. At the last one I was disappointed because only 3 members of the public showed up. One was a staff member and the other 2 were high school students. At the last meeting tonight, only 1 member of the public showed up. But again, we are doing great things in this school district, and I'd like to see more members of the public get involved in making this an even better school district. So now that I'm done saying that, I'll move on to what the board needs to consider tonight, and that is a pilot program at the high school for the proposed inclusion of a 9th grade advanced placement course. And this is something the committee has been working hard at trying to add more AP courses, which of course could count towards college, and trying to make Daniel Boone again that premier school district that we all want to be. Now Mr. McKnight made a presentation, and I don't want to put him on the spot and ask him to make it again, but in regard to the human geography course, the money it would cost is about $3,900, is that accurate? And that money is budgeted in the course category. However, there has been a little bit of controversy with some board members as to whether we should add this course or not. At this point, we're looking to it in a pilot phase. However, this needs to be a decision of the full board and not just the curriculum committee rather. So perhaps maybe Mrs. Torsha or Mr. McKnight give a very brief overview for the sake of all board members. Or any other guidance you can provide me in terms
I'm going to defer to Mr. McKnight.
Okay, thank you.
Briefly, we discussed the possibility that AP Human Geography is a gateway course for AP. It is generally considered the easiest AP course, but as I said earlier to the group, it's not an easy course. students who have taken, and when we've done this previously and grown this, with about 15 students to start, that program has grown at the 9th grade level to around 50% of the student population taking that course and passing with a 3, 4, or 5, around 83% of the kids. So it's clearly not beyond the scope of a 9th grade student. So the cost is, as I look through the remaining dollars that are left in the principal's budget, the money is there in addition to meeting with Mrs. Kiesel for professional staff development. There will be money there for that. But I'll take any questions that you may have as a full board.
If I heard correctly, that the course would cost $3,900?
Well, the training for the staff and the cost of the textbooks in total will be $3,900. $125 per student would be the cost of the textbook. We proposed it in a pilot model because we felt there were some good questions that went around the curriculum committee, and we felt that going fully into the curriculum may be premature. It may be best to examine it and study it for a year.
But that cost doesn't include the teacher?
Correct.
Okay.
What would that cost be?
The teacher is on staff. It would be them teaching one section that they do not currently teach. So it would be reallocation, which when we do the fuller presentation tonight, I think when we right size some of the classes that are less than 10 students, you'll see the right sizing on the staffing model. So the cost is indirect. It's not a direct cost.
And that's a cost we're paying regardless. We can't lose 1/9 of a teacher, correct?
As I suspect, and you can do anything you want, but that's true.
What were some of the questions that gave everyone pause to make sure this was going in as a pilot program as opposed to being introduced into the curriculum?
I should probably let the curriculum committee members speak to that better than I could.
Well, let me ask Mr. McKnight, it's human geography.
Correct.
How does that differ from geography?
Human geography looks at 5 elements in geography: movement of people, goods, ideas, how the humans interact within the environment, geopolitical issues around the world, as opposed to your more classical geography, which is just the study of people, place, and physical boundary.
Does anyone on the curriculum committee want to answer Mr. Basil's question?
So I had a chance to review the course. Is that considered the course description? Yes. So the course description and look at some of the content, what would be taught in that course, and it's kind of an off chance that I really had the time to look into it, and some of the subjects there gave me a little bit of concern for pause, just because I'm thinking the maturity level of a 9th grader versus, say, a college student who may be able to differentiate some of those ideas. Some of the things in there just seemed a little bit biased to me, maybe, or might be able to be misconstrued by students. So one of the topics more specifically was like colonialism. There were some global warming things in there, things of that nature. So I just wonder if sometimes we're injecting political ideas into these things, and I really wanted to make sure that that wasn't the case for this course. Although I do want to see AP courses being added, so I thought the pilot idea was kind of a good way to handle it, good go-between.
And my concern in committee was the fact that we had a human resource that was available to teach the 2 periods that were proposed, and that there should be full consideration on what to do with that human resource. If that person's available, is that where we want them to be? Because frankly, I thought in committee we were moving towards civics more than we were moving into human geography, which doesn't seem to be neither human nor geography.
I don't think it's mutually exclusive. It's either this or that. I think civics needs to really permeate everything we do in the district, whether it's an English class. I mean, being an informed citizen is critical to society. However, I've never been quiet about my sports and AP classes because, again, they make our students, they make colleges look at tenure with the students. And these classes can really give our students a leg up on competition when they get to college and when they get to the world, the real working world. The skills they develop in these classes can really enhance a lot of different aspects of it. Additionally, when we're talking about issues like colonialism or even global warming, of course there's going to be contemporary political discussion. And I think that's where the civic part comes into it. How we have to be willing to debate these issues, and we have to be open to discussion, and that's the American tradition. So I don't think we should be, I think it would be short-sighted of us to not add this course in because, again, it's very beneficial, the AP program in general. And I know a discussion that we've had on this board is what to do with classes with fewer than 10 students. And we have a policy that says we don't offer them. Well, this could be one avenue to get more students to enroll in these courses, which will be beneficial to these students. So, I mean, that's my view on it. I think we definitely should move forward with the pilot program. And I am very passionate about the topic of adding these courses into our curriculum. However, I'm just one of 9.
I've got a question. What is the difference between the pilot program and the full-blown program?
The pilot program, we're looking at how we enroll the number of students will be relevant, somewhere between, in the original proposal, between 15 and 25 to 30 students. After 1 year, we will revisit this as a committee and then as a full board, and you'll make a decision. Yeah, we think this is a fit for our district, or we feel like we can use our resources better allocated elsewhere. But the program is the same program.
Cost remains the same, as I understand it, from a pilot to a full.
It'll be less of a cost next year and future years because the staff training will have already been provided. That is a one-time cost.
The textbook is the cost, essentially, going forward. If it grows, it's per student, textbook.
Okay, well,
and human resources.
All right, I had just a really brief look at this. And to your comment, Mr. Kurtz, and to Mr. Doty's comment, it flat out to me, it just seemed like a very one-sided presentation. Just from the brief overview that I'm looking, you called it a 50,000-foot look, but to me, it was a very liberal, left-leaning, almost agenda. I'm not in favor of that. I think if you're going to debate global warming, you got to debate both sides of it. Just as an example, I don't have the confidence that that will be done at this point, and I don't see the reasoning to approve an AP course just because it's an AP course. You know, that's my feeling.
Mr. McKnight, could you give a little background to how much is global warming in this curriculum? Is for the sake of the board?
Yeah, I think it's not large, but the point I think is that tends to be a liberal left-leaning topic. And so the issue is many topics in education lean that way. It's about the presentation of the information, the administrative team monitoring what happens in classrooms, being in and out of the classroom to see that there's a fair presentation of information on a regular basis. I don't know that a topic one way or another really leans in either direction, but a conservative group could lean it one way and a liberal group could lean it another way.
Well, I can respect that. I just, again, just from the cursory view that I saw, and the way some of the questions were asked, it didn't make me comfortable, and convinced me.
I respect it. I think when you look at the next 4 years after high school, there's a lot of liberal experience that happens, and really that's at the core of it. This is a college course. The information that students engage, it's not wrong for them to have a dialogue around the topic and a debate around the topic. And I suspect in any classroom, I know in any classroom that I've observed, you have kids who have strong conservative values and you have students who have strong liberal values. And so the point is that it stimulates thinking and stimulates debate on these topics.
Mr. McLeod, I think I had just dawned on me
it takes you sometimes a few minutes, Mr. Steve, but I agree that it needs to be presented in an unbiased way, and some of these topics do tend to lean one way or the other. And I think we'd all agree that when you attend college, let's face it, the majority of it tends to be a little more left-leaning than conservative. But Mr. Doty brought up a good point, and at our curriculum meeting, and Mr. McKnight answered it. He said, well, what if the kid's getting this information in class and goes home and disagrees with the core values of his parents? Mr. McKnight said, you have a conversation. It's a conversation you have at dinner. This is what we talked about in class, but this is not what I hear at home. The kid's still at home. He's not in college. By the time they get to college, they're already disengaged from the parent, and they don't talk as much as they used to when they're home. So if you can take this course at home and have the conversation, if it disagrees with your core family values, I think it's better to have the conversation early at home with the child there than already at college. And so that just kind of dawned on me, maybe this is a great thing to start now, so that the parents have more control.
I had a question. This is more about, for me, I guess, an issue of resource allocation. And would we be looking to use this faculty in a better way at the high school? Are there other weaknesses that we should be focusing on? Let's say the core subjects, whether it's math, science, reading and writing, as opposed to bringing an AP course in. An AP course benefits a certain population of the student, but certainly not those that may be most in need. And so I guess that's my question, is this the best use of this faculty's time, or are there other things that we could be doing with that faculty's time, offering, I don't know what, a refresher class on certain math concepts, or
traffic safety.
I don't know, whatever it is, chemistry, something. But it seems to me that helping that would go a longer way to help the majority of the students that are there than in a specific AP class.
Very similar concern that Mrs. Benz had as well. I would say this, that I believe in all kids have the capability to achieve at a great level. So the issue of reallocating a resource at a lower level, I don't know that is the direction that I tend to lean or think. I think that we can raise the level for all students, and this is, of course, this is not meant to be for a select group or type of kids. This is a first step on our way to a forward march that will lead kids to be exposed to great rigor in academic performance. So reallocating a resource to a remediation type piece, I think we have a chance to use a resource to grow students to profound thinking and opportunities.
I'm not disagreeing with that, and I don't want words being taken out of my mouth and misconstrued. I wasn't intonating that there's a lack of potential in our student body. I mean, I am the complete opposite of that, and I've sat and listened to administrators and interviews and everything else tell me that that's not the case. I don't believe it. I've sat in this boardroom and listened to people tell us that for some reason the kids in Daniel Boone somehow are different than the kids in Boyertown or some other place, Twin Valley or the Main Line. I don't believe that either. I think all the kids here have the potential to be whatever it is they want to be when they grow up. And that's one of the reasons why I got on this board, was to try to afford them as much opportunity as possible to achieve those dreams and those successes. I think what I was just sitting here from my perspective as a board member is I've heard time and time again that we don't have enough resources to support certain academic venues within the high school. And I'm just wondering if we have time available to bring in a new AP class. Are those resources better used to provide the support that have already been identified to us as a board as lacking? And that's where I was going with it. So look, I think more AP classes are great, but I just wonder if there's something else that those teachers could be doing that would support the students reach the same kind of success in other classes as well. That's the only question I had. I don't have that information. That's why I'm asking it.
Yeah, I think when I make the presentation at the end of tonight, when we talk about the staffing model, right side of the staffing, I think you'll see that there'll be some opportunities to address many of pieces going forward. And we had a brief, just as an offshoot conversation about Burke's Better Business Group, who's going to be running an internship program for another set of population. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities we'll have as we engage our staff and we right-size the staffing model to support many things. I really do.
Let me just, along the lines of what Mr. Basil said, and more so what Mrs. Byte said, the prior conversations with the curriculum committee was that there was a great need for a civics course. And it seems like we've just totally circumvented that now, and we're jumping to something different. If you watch people in the street interviews, and I sent Mr. Kurtz as chair of the curriculum committee a YouTube thing of another high school where they interviewed the kids about civics matters. There's a general lack of understanding nationwide. So my question becomes, is that more urgent and more important because that impacts every student in the school as opposed to one AP course that may impact 15 to 25, like you're saying?
I think a way to look at that is we offer a principle of democracy course, okay? And we offer, we were bringing, I guess, in one of the previous proposals, not one of my proposals, that AP government will be coming forward. There are engagement issues there. The question we have to ask ourselves is how well is it being done? Is adding more to the solution or is it doing it better the solution? And I think doing it better is the solution, in all honesty.
Yeah, I'd like to add, as chair of the curriculum committee meeting, I keep saying that, as chair of the curriculum committee, I believe it's not we need to add a civics course. We have a civics course. We need to fix the civics course we have. And we can't look at these as being mutually exclusive. It's either AP Human Geography or something else. It can be both, and it should be both. And again, I'm just going back to make this district a premier and the best school district it could be. We can't be afraid to add these high-level courses and make our students attractive to the best programs out there, the Ivy League programs, the top 100 college programs. And that's not to say that we can't forget about the students who aren't going to be in those programs, because that's the majority of our students. And we have to provide them the resources they need too, but it's not mutually exclusive. I think we need to work on building everything up. And on that note, I see Mrs. Byte's giving me a little note here to wrap it up. They do need
I just want to talk.
Oh, you want to talk? Okay.
Somebody has to turn.
I'll turn mine off in a second. I just want to add, they do want some direction in terms of what to do. So I'd like there to be a vote. I don't know if that should be under new business or if it could be during this. Under new business? I'm asking procedurally.
Presentation, maybe?
I guess it's up to Mr. Martino as president.
Mr. Kurtz, last year you did a lot of research and presented to our committee about how many AP courses we have. And I'd like you, if you can, remember this, present those statistics and how competitive we were or non-competitive. And as you recall, I believe it was, we added 5 more APs last year or more. I just see, it is exclusionary, these AP courses. And I see a propensity to allocate a disproportionate share of our resources, our district resources, to a certain group of people. And I appreciate your passion for AP courses, and you excelled at them. But there's a whole other population in our school district that is hungry for more robust opportunities. And I'm just questioning, why are we starting again? You know, we passed the APs last year, and I held my breath because I was hoping to see another direction this year. And here we go off again. 2 more AP courses are being... It's like at some point in time, can't we talk about civics?
Well, we've been talking about
You're saying that
civics in the curriculum.
they're mutually exclusive, but they do seem to be mutually exclusive because we just keep advancing APs.
Well, that's not all we keep doing. In the curriculum committee, we discussed adding more classes this year. We added I believe at the high school, a graphic design course, an animation course. We're adding a lot of courses.
Do you remember the numbers, though? How many we offer right now?
Let me answer all of your questions if I can. I do not remember the number we offered at the time, nor do I remember what we want to offer. This is not just a one-time thing, though. We should always be striving to add these courses. And the beauty of this course specifically, and I sound like I am here for the advanced placement program. I'm not. If they want to put me on payroll, that's fine. But this is a gateway course, like Mr. McKnight said. This gets more students interested at that early age, which gets them interested in taking these courses later on. I just can't really understand how we want to I don't want to put this negatively, but we would be closing off opportunities to some of our students if we don't give them the resources they need. And again, we do need to have a conversation about the students who don't achieve to this level. But the answer isn't lowering the bar and holding students back. It's giving them what they need to succeed and move up. So it seems like we're going to have some disagreement here in terms of this specific course, and it's fine. We just debate these things, but adding AP courses wasn't a one-time deal. It's something that I want to continue doing while I'm on the board. But I also, again, we have to look at that civics component. I don't think the administration is.
I don't think Mrs. Bites was talking about lowering the bar. I think she was talking about that we've been discussing civics, as you both said, and we don't seem to be making any decisions on it. And all of a sudden, this comes up one meeting ago, and now we're ready to approve.
This was done by the administration.
Regardless, civics has been discussed for a while and hasn't been acted on. So rather than continuing this debate, I suggest Mr. McKnight's going to make his presentation. Half the board has not seen his presentation yet. And we can then vote on human geography after you see his presentation. Maybe you'll have more information. Does that satisfy everyone?
I have one final question. I promise. Okay, I may not promise. Mr. McKnight, how will the students be selected for this individual course that we're talking about?
It's a great question.
Thank you.
So, multiple data points, really, when we look at different elements to go in here. So, the very first thing, if you're going to run a pilot program, you open up the opportunity. We have to go back and look, coming out of 8th grade, PSSA reading score, and see where they are, because there's a heavy load of reading that will be required. Looking at teacher recommendation, looking at past performance in social studies, in terms of their, not specifically the teacher grade, but how they've done on the common summative assessment, on the tests within that grade. So you create three points, but if the program goes forward, I think the question that you raise is even better, because then how do we determine who really becomes eligible for this down the road? It's not so much about this 15 as it will be that if the program expands. So as you get into the summer program, what happens to a student who doesn't quite meet the data points and the rubric criteria? What opportunities do we offer them to still have a bite at the apple going forward out of 8th grade? And so we offer some, summer programming and an opportunity to reassess at the end of the summer. And then ultimately a parent waiver. If they really feel strong and the student really feels strong and they're ready for this, we want to empower students and families to be able to get what they feel they need. So that's a long answer. It's not a one-point data element. It's multiple points.
For the record, Mr. Speed, I've been in several meetings with Mr. McKnight. He tells everyone it was a great question. Just wanted you to know that.
I enjoy being put in my place, Mr. Martino. Thank you.
Moving on, is there any building and grounds report? Is there anything from facilities?
No, we haven't met since the last meeting. We're meeting April 9th.
Okay, thank you. Financial approvals? Do I hear any motions on financial approvals?
Motion. Make a motion for 11A through C.
Motion by Mr. Wolf, second by Mr. Kurtz on 11A through C. Comments or questions?
I have a question on B, please. Could you clarify that for us, Mrs. Torsia? I'm not familiar with the community group previously responsible for the annual scholarship award.
It would be Mr. Small, Mrs. Bites, that perhaps he can elaborate on that.
We were approached by this community group that currently is holding the funds. My understanding was that this scholarship has been presented annually to the salutatorian of the graduating class. It's been ongoing for a number of years, and at this point they would like to transfer the funds that they have in their possession to the district to form an ongoing scholarship fund in the name of the Amity High School alumni.
And who was the community group?
It was an individual, I believe. you the names?
No, it's an individual account, but it's the Amity High School alumni who contributes to the account.
They have a semi-organized group, is my understanding from the phone call I received.
Basically, Mrs. Bites, they don't want to be bothered handling it anymore, and they want to turn it over to us to see that it's continued. The only question I had when we drew up the agenda was who's going to solicit funds to keep the scholarship fund going moving forward. Right.
Wasn't the foundation going to drive some sort of alumni association?
This is actually the Amity, this building. It's not Daniel Boone. And it's actually people who graduated from this building many years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Basil?
This will be a unanimous vote for approval unless your votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Item 12 are personnel approvals, including the agenda edits under 12C5 with the additional volunteers.
Motion for 12A through D as amended.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Wolf, second by Ms. Brodowski. Comments or questions? Seeing, hearing none, Mr. Basil?
This will be a unanimous vote for approval unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Item 13, under programs, is the motion to approve the high school choir overnight trip to Hershey, Pennsylvania, March 25th through 28th.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Motion by Ms. Radowski, second by Mr. Rathke. Comments or questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Is there a staff person going along for this?
Mm-hmm. This is natural progression from what I understand in winning, and now they're moving on to the next level of competition.
Okay, thank you.
I believe it's Mrs. Ben.
Is it 2 nights then? 25, 26, 27, 28, 25, 26, 3 nights?
I believe so.
Hearing no other comments or questions, Mr. Basil?
This will be a unanimous vote for approval unless I hear any votes to the contrary. Hearing none, the motion passes.
Item 14 is policy, a motion to approve policy number 915 on the booster and support organizations.
I'll make that motion.
Do we actually need to make a motion to approve a policy? I thought it was just a second reading, and then it's automatically approved.
No, you do vote on your second readings.
I see, all right.
I second.
Motion by Ms. Twardowski, second by Mr. Wolf. Comments or questions?
Nothing from Mr. Basil.
Hearing.
Wait. No, I'm just.
Hearing none, Mr. Basil, please.
This will be a unanimous vote for approval unless I hear any votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Thanks, Ron.
A long time coming. Item 15 is transportation. There's a motion to approve a transportation agreement with Exeter School District for transportation by our school district of an Exeter student.
Motion for 15A for the transportation agreement to approve it.
Second.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
I did.
Motion by Mr. Wolf, second by Mr. Basil. Are there any comments or questions?
I think it's worth noting for the sake of everybody in the public that the district will be compensated by Exeter School District.
Yeah, I was going to ask Mr. Small to explain how this came about briefly.
We were approached by Exeter School District since we had one student already going to this venue in Pottstown, and they need to send one of their students, and could they place it on our run? And the best way to handle this is by contract. they're more than happy to pay the compensation.
And we've come to, have they agreed to the compensation?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Small. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, Mr. Basil.
This will be a unanimous vote for approval unless I hear any votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Moving on to new business.
Old business.
I'm sorry, I missed old business, didn't I? Motion to approve the 2015-16 revised school calendar, option A or option B. One pushed the school calendar back
1 week.
1 week, and the other pushed it back longer.
One is to start in August and one is to start in September. That's probably
the best
easier way.
clarification.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Which one's which?
A is the one that begins in August,
8th August.
Ain't for August. Okay.
and B for September.
That doesn't make sense.
Burr, come on.
So is there a motion?
We have to make a motion.
I guess my question is, what are we voting? We don't really have, I would think yeah, but there's two.
Well,
You have to make a motion for one or the other, right?
A is the one that was proposed originally and voted on, and I was adding it for a revision to add the makeup days for snow days for any missed in-service days. B is a change completely.
Wasn't B the original calendar 2 years ago for next year, like when we were planning it out?
It was, but
And then we
then,
went to A.
yes, because the association had agreed to an MOU, and so we were trying to start more aligned with the rest of the county. But there was some discussion with regards to beginning after the September 1st date.
B starts after Labor Day with the teachers coming in the first week of September.
But the students start the day after.
Yes. So is there a motion on A or B?
I'll make a motion for calendar A.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rathke, second by Mr. Doty. Any comments or questions other than what we already had? Mr. Basil, if you would, a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Stradowski?
No.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Basil, no. Mrs. Bites?
No.
Mr. Doty?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
No.
Mr. Rathke?
Yes.
Mr. Speed?
No.
Mr. Martino?
No.
Motion does not pass 6-3.
I will move calendar option B.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kurtz, second by Mr. Speed. Comments or questions about calendar B? Mr. Basil, another roll call vote, please.
Mr. Wolf?
No.
Mr. Basil, yes. Mrs. Bites?
Yes.
Mr. Doty?
No.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Rathke?
No.
Mr. Speed?
Yes.
Ms. Stradowski?
No.
Mr. Martino?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-4.
Under new business, under item 17A, Mr. Subers had sent a correspondence out to the board regarding something called a closed-door session as opposed to an executive session, and frankly, reading it, I couldn't discern the difference, and several other people couldn't either, so we'd ask that you explain it, please.
Sure, and this emanates from a Pennsylvania Supreme Court case from December of 2013. It was the J.M. Smith versus Township of Richmond case, in which there was a challenge under the Sunshine Act to a series of meetings conducted by the Township Board of Supervisors to gather information or engage in fact-finding. And in that litigation, the Township defended its conduct of these meetings by characterizing them as executive sessions. However, the topics discussed did not fall within a Sunshine Act executive session topic. And the Commonwealth, both the Commonwealth Court and the Supreme Court, in analyzing whether or not there was a Sunshine Act violation, stepped back and inquired as to whether or not there was in fact any meeting which fell under the Sunshine Law in the first place. And the Sunshine Law defines a meeting for purposes of that law as a prearranged gathering of a majority of the members of the board to deliberate agency business or take action. Well, it's easy to know when you're taking action as meaning you're voting on something. So the issue is whether or not you're deliberating agency action. And if you're deliberating agency action, you have to have your meeting in the public, unless it's an executive session topic such as labor relations, personnel, purchase of real estate, etc. So then the board looked into how to define deliberation. And deliberation is defined in the Act as discussion of agency business held for the purpose of making a decision. And the board looked at what went on in these meetings, and it found that the mere receipt of information, or the engaging in a fact-finding session, where the board isn't discussing the information for purposes of making a decision, it's really just receiving that information. It's gathering facts. The court held in that situation, there is no meeting under the Sunshine Law. That is a, quote, closed-door session or closed-door gathering. The Supreme Court actually used the terminology closed-door gathering. So, I mean, the board did meet. They met with third parties to receive information. In that case, it dealt with some pending litigation regarding the expansion of a quarry. They wanted to receive information or fact-finding to further inform themselves as to the environmental concerns being raised by the objectors to this expansion project. And the Supreme Court ultimately held that even though they were receiving information and engaging in fact-finding that ultimately could lead to a decision, that in those sessions there was no discussion for the purpose of making a decision. And it held that there was no Sunshine Law violation. However, the board did warn that, that you have to be careful using this because it creates, if you're doing this all the time, the public's going to question what you're doing, and they're going to create a perception in the public that you are trying to hide things. And it could, the board even mentioned in the decision that it could lead to legal challenges, challenging these closed-door gatherings under the Sunshine Law, which would lead to legal fees and unnecessary expense, as well as public discord regarding this matter. So this came up in a particular context where there was some information regarding a Berks Tax Committee issue in which there was a desire to present facts to the board, and there was no action to take. In that situation, there was no action to be taken by the board, so you couldn't be discussing board business. It was just an informative session. And that was questioned, whether or not it fell within the Sunshine Law executive session topics, and it did not. But I raised the issue that if you were only receiving information, and this was purely information gathering without any discussion for purposes of making a decision, that it could be held. And I wanted to provide some explanation of the basis of that opinion, and also pass on that warning that this isn't something that you want to make a common practice.
Yeah, I remember that's how this arose, but I feel better having heard you explain it than just reading it.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Subers about the difference between an executive session and a closed door session?
I guess I have just one question. As the board president presents to the public that we're having an executive session before or after a meeting, are those same requirements for notification given for this?
No, it's not. It's not covered by the Sunshine Law. The Sunshine Law requires the announcement of an executive session to the public, but because it's not a meeting subject to the Sunshine Law, and there's no, again, deliberation or board action, that requirement is absent. There's no requirement to announce that.
But there would be no restriction against it?
There's certainly no restriction against it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Subers. Mr. McKnight, you're on.
Might be a chance to stretch your legs first. Set up.
You leaving?
That
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ask.
No, I've seen this twice. Yeah.
Do we need to include Mr. Doty in on the attendance that he's here?
I got him.
Okay.
I marked him down as tardy.
Had to use the Is it on?
Yeah, it's coming. What was up against this thing?
Brian, down.
I mean, from the run. Everyone ran away. No one ran away. That's not a good sign.
Only Miss, you don't have to wait for him.
Okay, he's good?
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm going to stand because I've been seated a long time and I can't stay down too long. Back at the Quaker Committee, what was it, 2 weeks ago, a week ago, I was asked originally to present the strategic plan, kind of overview where we'd like to go in the high school, my thoughts, and so forth. Mr. Martino, that took an hour and a half tonight. He made me promise it would be quick tonight, so I will try to make it as quick, save your questions. But going forward, I know you're familiar with the mission. What I want to do is get to the core beliefs of the high school. All students can grow, we can maximize the potential of each student, and 100% of students are eligible for selective secondary opportunities. I think we have to fundamentally believe that. If we don't fundamentally believe that piece, we're going to be in trouble. So that's a non-negotiable for me and for the staff going forward. This has to be, now how we get there is the negotiable part as we build and collaborate together. So a vision of the future is a high school where 100% of the students are eligible, we're all growing, and we're maximizing their potential. The second piece of this is about the educational hub. I'm going to blow through that tonight because that really focuses on how we bring the community into the high school as a central part of the community. So the vision that we have is possible because it happens. Okay, these are not. I'm not that original of a thinker. Okay, these pieces are going on. Masterman in Philadelphia, which is a magnet school, has kids going to the best schools in the country. Downingtown STEM, many people know, and because it's in our area, have seen the work that they've done. Mechanicsburg is a school where they have the best growth in the state, all the way through elementary, through the high school. And then Academies of Nashville really is an issue where it talks about giving kids their future their way and really allows kids, it taps into motivation. The number one and most researched piece in education is how do we motivate kids, really. And the number one way to motivate kids is through choice. Obviously, can't choose everything. We have to guide some of those pieces. But where we can give students choice, we ought to. And where we can give teachers choice to deliver on those things, it would be a strong practice. So, here's where we currently are as a high school. 88% four-year cohort graduation. Most students are growing. Our grades are by 9 to 12. Our content organization is by age and time, meaning you're in 10th grade by your born-on date. If you were born 15 years ago, you're probably in 10th grade. It doesn't really honor a student's ability or struggle that may have them either a little more accelerated or a little less accelerated. So how do we build a model and design a model that does that? And that's kind of the work and the collaboration as I've begun to meet with department chairs to investigate. So what we'll be developing is strategies and initiatives that can deliver on the future that we want to get to 100%, as I said, eligible for post-secondary or selective options. All students grow and we maximize their potential. So building a rigorous, relevant foundation and a consistent academic program is step one. Now, what I've seen at the high school in my time, and I've been in now about 15 different days, and have had a lot of time to do some analysis, meet with teachers, talk with teachers, students, and other administrators. There's a lot of excellence in that high school. That school is clearly a good school. There's no question about it. The question is, how do we go from good to great? And you can only get there by having a defined plan, defined path. So some of our programs, that there's certainly some rigorous pieces. There's definitely some relevant pieces. Our consistency is an area for growth. We're going to have to grow the consistency in practice, and we'll come to that a little bit later. How do we enhance and have diverse growth opportunities? This really drives into the issue that we honor students that are what I would call -9, they're below the 9th grade level even though they're in 9th grade, or they're plus 12, okay? That they may be in 12th grade, or they may be in 11th grade, but have already achieved all the credits that they need. Right now we allow for senior release. That should be a conversation that we should have a richer dialogue on about what we do with that senior release time, because that's the place where we can deliver not only in the curriculum but some, an enhanced and diverse growth option. There are many things that can be achieved in that time, along with other opportunities. If we go back to the model where we were, if we were to indulge the AP Human Geography in 9th grade, we would potentially put kids on the path to graduate from high school with around 30 to 45 college credits. So that's the plus 12 model we're talking about. And that opens up tremendous opportunities for kids. So something we really should visit. And if it's not AP Human Geography, what is the other gateway courses? And there are some others that we can look at. Equitable access to all students often refers to special ed, but it's more than that. And I will show you a little later what I mean by how we have access to all kids with the foundation. Pieces here where we're looking with Ms. Kiesel at curriculum mapping. How do we refresh the curriculum? And Mrs. Weber and I and Mr. McGregor have increased, and there are a few teachers in the audience, the walkthrough model. We probably this week have been in maybe 15 or 20 classes and built a matrix to do that, to be in classes more, to see the practice more, because the current Pennsylvania model for evaluation doesn't really grow teachers. I mean, if they know, the teachers know, when you come in, they can put on a dog and pony show. They'll tell you that themselves. This is really about having the rich dialogue about their instructional practice when you do a walkthrough. So we'll be on pace every week to do 50 or 60 walkthroughs a week. And then you meet with teachers afterwards and discuss the practice. Student assessments, student data teams, student well-being. What are the things that we're putting in play to grow that piece? The diverse opportunity piece. We're going to talk a little bit later. I'll show you a model that is in a draft form about pathways for students, and not only pathways for the elite academic opportunities, but pathways to engage students on their terms about where they may want to go in life. Early college access, career development models, and then the athletics, arts, and extracurriculars are other growth opportunities that are usually in full effect in most high schools. This is the piece we talk about equitable access. Over here, guys, we will see that by and large, the traditional programming that happens for kids to grow them. A lot of it is framed around the IEP piece of the model. But what we don't do a very good job at in any school that I've ever been around in my career is the credit recovery and acceleration programming and re-engagement programs. 9th grade is a big dropout, not only drop out of school, but drop out of the programming element of your school. So in 9th grade, you'll see, maybe in middle school, kids were playing 3 sports. Now in 9th grade, they're playing 1. Maybe they were in a bunch of clubs in middle school, now they're not. So what kind of programming do you build to re-engage kids, to keep kids engaged? Skipping the hub, guys, will come another day, another conversation. Mr. Martino, that's how I'm getting through it faster, for your direction. All right. So, what I've seen in
Can you go back 2 slides real
Sure.
quick? It's the hub. No, not the hub. It was the one after the hub. No, back. Right there.
This is in the hub piece yet.
Okay.
Okay, this is all educational hub pieces. If we wanted to draw people into our system that creates revenue-producing opportunities, and I would gladly represent that piece, but in appreciation of your time tonight, I thought we'd miss the hub. But essentially, what we're talking about is an educational hub. I'll just quick hit it.
since we've gone back to it, is how do we draw the community into the high school? How do we make it a revenue-producing opportunity to help support the programming in the high school? I mean, I have a pretty substantial model for that that we can talk about. How do we get developmental opportunities for kids who maybe weren't really at the skill set yet to make the high school varsity team? But if you turn those kids away, they disappear, and they're going to find other options. So there's a whole model, to do that. But what I've seen in almost the multiple schools and districts in, that a lot of people care, a lot of people working very hard, okay? And it leads to a lot of random acts of improvement. It kind of looks like that. What we're trying to get to is that, okay? More focused, more directed, more aligned. So we go back to the issue, excuse me. How do we get from 88.4 cohort to a 98.4 year graduation and then 100% 6-year graduation? Many of these things we're not even measuring. So what you'll see in education a lot is a lot of activities without a lot of metrics, without a lot of implementation planning and strategies. So they're the pieces that we're discussing at the high school now that we're growing going forward. You may ask yourself the question, why not 100% graduation in 4 years? Well, if this honors the IEP process, some of those kids are allowed to stay until they're 21, as you know. And so schools that are reporting 100% graduation in 4 years, I don't know how they're doing that and what that means. Because we know in every school district there's students who stay past the 4 years.
What's a 4-year cohort graduation?
Okay, 4-year cohort graduation. The state changed when we were coming through school. If it was 300 kids who entered the 9th grade, or 10th grade, if it was 10th grade then, and 300 kids graduated, that's 100%. It didn't matter if they were the same kids. Now, they actually, through PIMS, track exactly the kids who are in the 9th grade. And for example, if a student leaves Daniel Boone and goes to Exeter, we have to hand them off. Okay, so that's what they're talking about. What happened in the cohort exactly, and how you're graduating those students. So here's the outline. Excuse me. I have a little cotton out. We aspire to be, we identified our mission, where we want to be, where are we now? We're looking at the demographics and the community demographics, our student outcomes and other indicators. Where will we be in 5 years? We're setting that goal. How will we get there? Key strategies, initiatives, and how we gauge our progress. We look at a plan, do, act, cycle. So we're not just doing things randomly, we're actually doing things that are connected to an outcome, and if they're not working, we're revisiting, reevaluating, and making correction along the way. Here's the timeline that I had shared at the curriculum committee and the kind of work we're kind of doing right now. As we head out, this is where we're moving and the pieces that we're feeding. You will feel, as a community, and as a board member, and as a possible parent, you'll be getting a number of surveys over time to judge your satisfaction and a host of other topics. We're working on developing teacher leaders. And I don't mean just department chairs as teacher leaders. I mean true teacher leaders who want to help lead the school moving forward. Sometimes they're department chairs and sometimes they're not department chairs. Leadership is not defined or committed to a title. It's committed to an action. Here is, since I've been hired, right now we're breaking down all these pieces in the analysis piece right up here. Mr. Smalley just spoke today. We have to get together on the budget. So I have to get a little bit of education on what's going on with the high school budget. We've looked at curriculum and instruction and staffing and that model right now, and that's what prompted a host of things that we're about to discuss. So immediate growth issues. Where can we go immediately and things that we have to look at and adjust. So class size was one of the prompters in the discussion. Really the genesis of much of what we're about to talk about. So apparently there is a policy, which I did not know about, that there cannot be classes that are running under 10 students without special exception and applications of the curriculum committee and the board. We found a volume of those based on a request, and we looked at the numbers, and there were more than just a few.
How many?
36.
36?
Yes. 36 sections of students. Now, that was after we disaggregated a number of students that were... Some teachers, and this is really, a nice thing. They're having on their lunch period, they'll bring a student in. So that shows up as a section, okay? One student. So we pulled that piece out.
Section is a class.
Correct. Okay. But let me finish. That one student, if a teacher gave up their lunch period to just bring the kid in, or they combine them in there in some other class. So I don't want you to walk away thinking there are sections of one student. There are not. Okay. Okay? And we disaggregated those pieces out to get our number of 36, okay, that exists. So that tells me a couple things. Well, there's something wrong in the schedule, meaning the schedule is not as efficient as it can be. So what's causing that? So you have to do some analysis to figure out what is causing that piece. So there's a volume of study halls. When you see a huge volume of study halls with lots of kids misapplied, that's another indicator that the schedule is not right-sized. There's something going on in the schedule. And what I found was that the conceptual and applied classes in the multiple levels, we found, and I'll show you a spread. In some content areas, there are 4 and 5 classes, levels of classes. Every time you add a level, that's a singleton in a course potentially, or a doubleton, which is a scheduling terminology, but what it means is that constricts the course. And the more you constrict the course, the less options you have, the more you're bound to get classes of 10 and 30, instead of a more balanced setup. So we have that problem going on. Some of the other growth areas we talked about was school environment and safety, and that's something I'll present, I think, on the 9th about the guards and so forth. I reached out on a couple different levels, and I'll share that with you. There is a host of issues concerning standing operator procedures, and we're developing procedures because it's there's been a lot of handshake deals that really, and it's not bad or good, it's just people just general verbal, understanding about things, that we want to get those things down on paper. The other issue that we want to make sure we have is total transparency for you and for the central administration, so people can see it. Because in all honesty, guys, I understand clearly that we work for you and Mrs. Torsia, so I get who I work for. I'm going to show you always multiple options, and you can pick the option you want. Sometimes, and I said this to the staff last week in the faculty meeting, sometimes you have a choice between a Honda, you have an Acura, you have a Mercedes. I want to drive a Mercedes. I like a Mercedes. I hope to drive a Mercedes someday. But if you go out in the parking lot, I have a Nissan. Okay, I can't get all the things I want all the time, so you have to make some hard decisions. I respect that and appreciate that. So we'll put that piece together, and we'll give you options, and then you guys can have the great debates that you want to have about where we can go and what we should do as a board. Long-term issues, curricularly, we have to get some things righted. Instructional practice, as we continue to do walkthroughs, we'll begin to make it more consistent, increasing the academic rigor, and that's the point about the AP Human Geography. Dealing with student motivation through choices, and I'll show you a pathway program that can begin to do that. I think we want to visit the senior release program, not eliminate it, but visit how we're doing that. There's some things that I think we could make really tight in there and meaningful for students. And service learning, of course, and right-sizing courses, enrollment, and staff.
What is that, service learning?
Service learning, you give kids an opportunity. We got it, and forgive me for the names, because I apologize, I don't know all the key players. There's a woman who came up to me, and she works, I think, with the Birdsboro Council. It's about beautifying the park system and so forth. So kids can get service hours, credit hours to go down and work in the community and do some nice things like that.
Go into elementary school if they're interested in being a teacher, an assistant in a classroom.
Right.
Explore,
Right.
those avenues.
So this kind of goes back to the conversation we're having. It's not all about AP. There'll be many avenues to grow kids and give them great opportunities. So scheduling time options. I'm going to stop right here for a second. And do you have any questions or thoughts right now? That's the overall strategic plan. It's loose, and it's meant to be loose because I've been here 15 days. So, and officially I've been here about 4 days. So that's kind of where we are in the overall strategic plan.
I guess my first question would be, it seems that you've identified a lot of areas for improvement, specifically within the schedule. You have sufficient time to work out those complications before the start of the next school year?
Not all. And that's why this is kind of pressing right now, and it's inopportune to have the conversation now, and I appreciate that. However, we can take some first steps to begin. I think, really to deliver a school that is good on to great, and I said this in the interview process, that I think we can be the best school in the county, we can be the best school in the state, we can be the best school in the nation. I think it's going to take 5 years to deliver that model, and a lot of cooperation and hard work to grow that model. But we're going to have to take some first steps, and I think we can do some things right now. So, not everything. We can't get it all fixed this. But in 15 months, I think we have to schedule right.
But what's the most important thing you would work on first? What's the most pressing?
I think that there's some leveled issues that I talked about. That 4 or 5 level issue is the first step to me that's constraining much of what we're going to try to do. It's also not sound educational practice to have 4 or 5 levels in the same course. Algebra 2 is Algebra 2. Having 4 different levels of Algebra 2 is not, you will not find an educational research piece that says that's good practice. Sometimes you do things that are against what is good practice because you have a need in your own situation. But this kind of going back to Mr. Baez, what we were saying earlier, I think that offering these lower level classes, it dishonors kids. That's my opinion about it. I think kids are capable of much more. I think we have to give teachers the right support to do that work and training to help them. But minus a student being identified, which we're not talking about any special ed levels here. These levels exist without special ed kids, by and large. We can do a great job for kids by increasing that support.
I do have a question regarding that, and I think my question would be what happened. I do agree with you that all kids can learn. But what if you take that piece out and you have kids that would have been in conceptual or applied that are struggling in that? So do you slow down the academic?
No.
Right. So what happens when they fall behind?
Okay, there's a model, the politically correct term is acceleration. And so how do you scaffold learning and adjust learning and differentiate learning for kids to support them the right way, to be able to get the concepts. And so you don't treat every student the same, obviously. What we've done, what I see here in this schedule, is we've differentiated the schedule at the benefit of the adults. We haven't differentiated learning for the benefit of the kids.
Okay, because I agree that, and this has always been my concern. We have the issues that address the kids with IEP.
Sure.
And we have the accelerated, the AP, we have the gifted programs. My concern's always been those kids that aren't quite meeting an IEP, but aren't up here.
Right.
And they seem to fall through the cracks, and that's my concern. If you get rid of the conceptual or applied, you lose those kids.
Well, but we have conceptual, we have academic, and we have accelerated before we get to honors and AP. So that's a lot of.
I'm looking at maybe the accelerated should be in the honors.
Well, and we can have it. We can make a decision about the 3 levels. I mean, what I'm recommending is we get to 3 levels. My experience in watching teachers, not necessarily here, just in general, over 25 years of practice in a lot of places, is that when you have the conceptual and applied classes, there's a lot of the differentiation is a lot of worksheeting. It's not really giving them quality instruction. Now, maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised as I continue to go in classes here and see some, teachers, as I like to say, teaching with their hair on fire for that level of kid, because that's what it takes to get those kids there. But that's just not what I've seen, and that's not what the research supports happens. It's a lot of teaching down, unfortunately.
Okay.
So
I just don't want to find out in 2 years that those kids were lost.
Yeah, no, and that goes to the accountability of the assistant principals and the principals being in the classes, and that's why the walkthrough model that we put in play is integral to making sure that our teachers are staying true to who, and I'll tell you this, true to who our teachers really want to be. What happens many times in the career of teachers, they become disengaged and disgruntled and upset for a variety of reasons. Our job is to reconnect them to their passion and why they got into education. And so that's the work for us. And if we're not doing that, then you need to call us on the carpet for that piece. The accountability model for this high school administrative team is going to be very high. And so you feel free to call us in to executive session. And you let us know where it's at. And that, I've made no bones. Mrs. Weber will tell you that, how I feel about our accountability side of it. And the accountability will flow onto the teachers, for sure, to deliver for kids. That's why we're here. So we shouldn't be confused about why we're all here. We're here to make sure that we're passionate and we deliver for students, but we create models that are deliverable by teachers. Because some things are very hard to deliver for a teacher. So that's the piece.
Okay.
Yep. Sure.
A couple questions for you.
Absolutely.
In the one timeline you had up here at the end, you talked about metrics. I guess the question I have is what metrics are being used between now and then to measure success? Because as a board, other than matriculation rates, SAT scores or whatever, there aren't a lot of data points for us to measure success and whether the plan you've enacted is working or not. So what benchmarks do we look at to measure performance?
Well, as a minimum, we want to look at the graduation rate and have an accountability, 100% accountability on the graduation rate. That we understand what has happened with every student. I just got an email from somebody on the team here asking which students, how many kids have dropped out. Well, it's not only how many kids have dropped, but what grade and why. Okay, so that would be a piece. We really have to be intimate about that. We have to be able to see, well, have we grown our SAT score? Have we grown kids, what's the percentage of kids that are getting into their chosen opportunity and then staying in their chosen opportunity? Because we know we get a lot of kids in for 1 year. And then a lot of them either have to be remediated at the college level or they drop out. So, thank you. I'm sorry. So there, but it's a good question. So the metric piece has to be more defined for sure.
And I guess for me, I mean, the question I have then is how is that being shared to the board? And what kind of updates are we going to be getting?
Great question. Absolutely. At will when you want it, but I think you have to do.
I think it has to be built in.
I think you have to do a yearly state of the union, state of the high school, and you have to say these are the metrics we agree on, that we feel as a school board, as an administration team, this is what we think is really important, and so this is what we're measuring. We need a scorecard, and that scorecard has to be reported, and then there has to be accountability on the scorecard side. If it's not happening. Not that we're lopping heads off, that we're making corrective action to make it happen. Or we say, well, because I don't ever want to meet a goal. I just want to shoot for a goal really high and just go up a little short and then find another goal. And to me, that's where the growth always is as a team. So.
Okay, so I would agree with that. I mean, I just think we'd have to have those sort of meetings more frequently. It doesn't do us any good at the end of the year to figure out things weren't working out.
Right.
And then a reset.
Yeah,
I guess the other question I have is this schedule efficiency issue that you're talking about. I mean, I got to believe that universities and other schools have models in place that we can just adopt, correct?
Yes.
And you've identified those models already that we can just pull in?
It depends on which direction we go with a number of things, but there are several avenues we can travel, and there are models out there to help us do that.
Is that something we have to pay for?
No, you are paying for it.
I mean, I understand that.
No. I mean, you have already the eSchool tool,
right?
And it's all workable within those constraints.
Okay.
I want to jump into this. Let me just actually. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I just want to suggest.
Yes.
For the whole city release thing.
Yes.
I know there's a good amount of kids that should not, could strive more and take more classes during that time. Mm-hmm. But if you want to keep it, but get less at the same time, maybe do something let kids I know there's kids who actually do leave early who have all their credits and have exceeded as much as they can, but then leave to go do work and make money something like that, so we can make a living work for it.
Yeah, it's a good point. We've talked about how to modify that piece and what are the criteria students can fit into that are really good things to go do as opposed to just going out. Right, so absolutely, those pieces are in play. Career internships, service learning, a dual enrollment course at Monaco or elsewhere. So there's some things that can
Mr. McKnight, at other presentations of this, you talked about student release where the student just came in an hour or two late.
Yeah, as I'm understanding,
really serve little purpose.
Right, as I'm understanding, and you guys live it, so or know people who live it, that literally there's a first period in the day where some kids they come in late, and if it's early, they leave early. So unsupervised student time is an uncomfortability for me. Having students engaged in the academic program, helping them get to the plus 12, more college credits, things like that through our dual enrollment program as we grow it. To me, is wouldn't you like to go to college? I know your parents would with 12 credits. They would love that. It would be helpful to them. So it would be helpful to you. So that's the kind of piece that we're looking at. Yes.
Okay, with the class size, you said you found 36 mil. Did that include any kind of studies already taken out of that?
We disaggregated those pieces. Okay. And a couple board members have seen that model, so they saw it. And that's especially with the directive that there should be none, and that we found a host of them. Is what stimulated a lot of this conversation. I want to jump down real quick, guys, to show you a couple things. I could do it through there, but there's actually a few more if I go to the Excel. So here is, I believe, yes. So here's what we're looking at in terms of the multiple levels. So consideration, which we brought up the curriculum committee on March 12th, condensing homogeneous levels, and we'll come back to which should be the level. It's at the very bottom. I threw out a proposal, but it doesn't. My answer is not the only answer, clearly, and you guys may have a better answer. But you'll see here, so we have conceptual, academic, accelerated honors. Now, they don't call it academic, it says Algebra 2. And then if kids move into AP levels. So that's 4 to 5 levels. Language arts, applied. And interestingly, they're not the same name, and I'm not sure why that is. It's either conceptual in some places, applied in other places. We should at least standardize that piece. So there's 4 levels in language arts. Science, again, biology has 4 levels. Again, social studies, 4 levels. So the rationale behind it is you can create a higher academic culture for students in preparation for college and career. We talk about these issues of kids who may not be college guys. There are not any jobs out there that don't require you to read well, write well, and calculate well. Those jobs are gone in this country. I think we all recognize that. We're now, so you have to have that skill. Basic skills courses, I don't think can give kids the tools they need to go be successful at the next level. Whether you go to the Cordon Bleu, whether you go to Penn College of Technology, you need a higher level skill set for sure. Reducing the constraints on the master schedule, allowing for right sizing of class enrollments, expanding enrollment in advanced placement and honors courses, thereby making our students more competitive for entrance and scholarship to selective post-secondary opportunities. The recommendation was academic honors, advanced placement. So that was that piece.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Where I went to school, we didn't have an AP course. We had honors.
Mm-hmm.
And you were expected to take the AP test at the end of the class, or during the class. I'm curious as to why you're stratifying honors and AP. I would think that's the same sort of academic, strenuous academic caliber course, whereas, academic
it's a great point.
Is something else.
And I don't disagree with you. Moving, to me, this forced the model up.
Sure.
Okay, as opposed to the other way. But you're right. There should not be a great deal of difference between honors and AP. However, we want to do that piece. If you pull honors and make just the AP option, or I don't suspect.
Call it honors, but I mean, at the end of the day, the only reason why you get an AP score is because you sit down and spend 3 hours taking a test.
Right.
And if you've been taught the information you need to know to pass the test or do well in the test, you get the AP credits. You don't get the credits for taking the class.
That's true. And the big issue, the big thing that AP sells is the prescription. That these are the things that are aligned to the AP test. An honors course, you'd have to self-align it and figure out what is best aligned to the AP test.
Yeah.
That's the sale point of AP. That's what they sell you when you engage them.
If you get rid of conceptual and they get put in the same as academic people, are they going to get the help for, because you're at academic and conceptual people, for instance, my brothers are he has IEP and stuff, but he gets put in classes academic, he's going to fall behind. So will they still get the extra help?
And that was the same question over here. And the answer is, that's a very good question, and it's a challenge that teachers have to have training to support it for sure. Okay, and there has to be a differentiated model to support those students. It's not about, and IEPs, for example, force a differentiated model. In there, the specially designed instruction, the SDI, requires by law that we give those pieces. So for students in that situation, it'll be even easier. The student that's a little trickier is the student who's not identified, but needs to have that support. And that really comes from giving the teachers training on the effective instruction strategies and how to scaffold the learning for students, and then that we monitor and support and make it happen.
This is just one example. But bio, I think is the only thing that affects the AP course. You have to have already taken honors prior to taking.
Right.
That's the only thing I've noticed.
Right. There's a couple other things that are deeper details. There's some things on Algebra 1A and 1B. There's a couple other complexities in the schedule that cause some interesting challenges. So, duly noted.
Yes. So you have some history, and I'm assuming that you're making this recommendation because you've gone through this in another school district before.
Several.
And that's how you set it up? You had academic honors and AP?
Different terms, different courses named, but yes, the conceptual, the lowest level is not in play. Correct. Yes?
I can tell you for a fact, my daughters go to Muhlenberg, and that's exactly almost how they do it now. My oldest is a senior, going off to college, and she has taken the AP test, the AP classes, and there are more accelerated classes to prepare them for the AP exam. The honors kids have a choice to take the AP exam, but they have to do the studies almost on their own to prepare themselves for it. But they really segregate the kids between honors and AP, so they can push the AP classes, and the honors kids can volunteer through other instruction for the AP test. So just throwing that out there.
Thank you.
Is the AP more work than honors, really? I mean, that much more work? Because I mean, I went to public school, but we had the same model, I mean, at Hampstead.
I think the student's the best, maybe a student representative may be the best to give us some insight to what is real versus what may be.
The textbooks are definitely different, like the college textbooks are much on a different level than like just an honors history class. But the difference just like, just the testing style between like honors, just a regular honors class or like AP, they kind of take it away from the college test sort of thing. It's just a little bit more, I think it's a little more effort and work.
What's more college oriented?
It prepares more a little bit.
This is a labeling issue. This is
correct. Like if they're willing to do the honors, I don't understand why we just want to push them to the AP.
I agree.
And then you have accelerated in honors, which I'm not even sure what the difference between that
AP is a purchase curriculum, right?
It is. It is a purchase curriculum.
It is.
Do you realize
Yeah,
that?
AP has to, when you do an AP course, you have to submit the syllabus and what you want to do to AP. So like right now, Kristen, our guidance counselor, Kristen, thank you, Marcinko, is submitting those right now. She's getting those from our AP teacher. It has to be submitted and approved by AP. AP gives you the training and the original information. Teachers have some latitude on how they want to cover some information, obviously, but ultimately it's a prescription.
Mr. McGuy, I want to add, we're talking about the labeling, and a lot of it doesn't matter, but now with the college applications the way they are, they specifically ask how many AP classes you take, AP branded classes, and it may not have mattered even 5 years ago, but now the college admissions is the Common App, so it's that way for most.
AP's done a great marketing job.
No,
Yes. Labeling out there.
Yes, they
Yes,
pay for
that's true.
Yes,
That's true.
But
I mean, there's some truth to that, but there is, you really do get college credits for that, and you don't, well, for passing the test, as somebody pointed out.
But not to get hung up on the labeling, you're saying you want to reduce it to 3 levels.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you'll label them after.
Okay. The other piece I wanted to share with you is, where's that? The pathway schedule. Now, guys, this is a draft, completely a draft. I shared this with some department chairs. As I went through the book, the course offering book, we have a lot of classes, and it kind of culls into this model. It doesn't have to be this model, but one of the things I'm highly concerned about is giving students choice and control in some of their opportunities. So this is a mocked-up student career, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, number of credits each year. You'll see the kind of core academic block here. And then you'll see some other pieces that still have to be developed. It's not fully, but 6 pathways, 6 course pathways. So if a student is interested in engineering, okay, I'm currently meeting with the staff members who will help develop engineering. If they're interested in the performing arts, the creative performing, who are our kids and the art staff, and what program does that? So when you actually graduate from this school, you get a diploma from Daniel Boone and a concentration in some area. It's a differentiator when you apply for school. Okay, the colleges, and we did a lot of research on this, where you get certain point values for doing certain things. Okay, and then if you're over this number, that's their cut line, you're in. And if you're not, you're not. So this is an opportunity to provide some of those. The honors college, or honors school, or honors pathway, student could, in theory, have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 AP dual enrollment credits. 10 courses, which is 30 credits, if that's the path they wanted to go. If they don't want to go that way, and they want to be in career performance, we connect with BCTC, okay, and we provide that opportunity to this model as well. I mean, but the thing that it does more than anything else is it gives kids choice. It gives them opportunity to have some say in where they want to go. And when kids have a say, I'm sorry?
What's career performance?
Career performance would likely be under the BCTC model, the different career performance opportunities they have, or if there's some unique opportunity that a student would have to go right into an internship and an opportunity, computer science.
I'm going to show my age. So are we talking about, trades?
Yes.
Are we talking about?
Yeah. More than that, but yes, but that would definitely fall in there.
Computer technology.
Healthcare.
Okay.
Right. That would definitely fall in there. It would be brought up in that as well, but that would definitely be in play.
Yep.
For sure. Yep.
Landscaping.
So that's, as we continue to investigate and grow over the next 15 months, that will not be for next school year at all. It's just showing you and sharing. So then I was directed also to look at the current length of the day and some time and some opportunities to have potentially an activity period to end the day and reduce and eliminate study halls. So one of the things that causes study halls is labs. So pairing labs up the right way can reduce the study halls. So we want to right-size the enrollment. We want to reduce study halls. Now, you could easily say, well, isn't the activity period at the end of the day a study hall? It can be. It also can be an opportunity for internships and tutoring and a consistent model. So there are a number of things that we'll be able to do in here. This is green because this is my recommendation, which is basically our 9-period model now to a degree. I mean, it actually gives us 44 minutes instead of 42. So it gives you a sense of it, of where we're at. The big blocks are because of lunch. That's the lunch space. If you wanted to have 51-minute periods, you know, kind of hit the block schedule. I don't want to call that block scheduling, but then you'd have 3 lunch periods, so you'd have to do some condensing there. And we'd have to do some time. What would we do with the last roughly 8 minutes of the day? And you know, it's a little off there. Add a minute through each period is what you do, I guess. But so something else to look at if we want to build it in that model, this gives us a chance to reduce the study hall piece by adding it at the end of the day.
Good question.
I'm sorry.
So the only study hall they would have is end of the day then?
If my dreams came true, yes. But the likelihood that we would not have a few conflicts because of science labs, there would be a few others. Yes. I mean, the other possibility, there are some schools that put it at the beginning of the day so students can start their first period off getting their works and things done. But the upside there is for students who have to leave for sports and a bunch of other things, they don't lose any instruction.
2 things. So homeroom would be from 7:30 to 7:35.
Would likely wrap homeroom into period 1 and have minutes there, so teachers just take attendance and all that.
So, okay. And wouldn't that mean that kids can only take 8 courses? Because I know I'm at 9, or like with lunch it's basically 8, but like
right.
I'm maxed out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so does that mean it's going to limit how many you can take?
How many study halls do you have?
None.
Okay, so yes, in your case,
Yeah.
there would be a limitation. You lose 1 slot. Yep, that's true. But in most of our kids' cases, they're inundated with study halls. So, okay. Yes, I'm sorry.
If you limit the study halls, like I know some kids who get extra help.
Yes.
During their study hall in the middle of the day, it's kind of like the period to go to that teacher to get their help. If they limit the classes, but have to take some amount of classes, that can limit their time to get help from like their...
It's not going to limit their time to get help, but it will limit their convenience, I would say, or their at-will help. It would take, they're going to be able to get help at that end of the day time. So they're going to be planning it out. But the upside is they would have gone through all their classes. They would know what would happen that day and be able to say, okay, I need to go back and get help on that. I'll be able to experience that. Okay?
Mr. McKnight, we discussed this presentation in the curriculum committee meeting earlier this month. And if another committee member could just refresh my memory, did we vote to move forward with one of these schedules or bring it to the board for approval? Mrs. Pikes, you're saying we did. Mr. Wright, yes, that was, we went with the recommendation.
We voted to bring B forward.
Bring B forward, and there was another, was there something else, I believe? I wish I had my notes with me. There were 2 things we talked about moving forward to the full board that night. One was schedule option B, and the other was...
Condensing.
I think the condensing. Yeah, the condensing.
Right. Yes.
So those are 2 things that we would like to vote on.
Right.
I neglected to mention that during my committee report. So now we have 3
those are things that I guess I was a little bit concerned about the time frame. You said 15 months, you said
yes.
5-year plan. What are some components that you would implement or want to implement short term?
Short-term issue would be a reduction of the number of periods. Number of levels.
Right.
And having the minutes be reconfigured for next year. Those are the 2 actions that we would like for going forward for the 15-16 school year. The pathways piece has a lot more work to go.
Right.
Has a lot more to be fleshed out. In meeting with each department chair, I asked them to come forward with several pathway recommendations, begin to meet with their teams, and have that no later than the end of the first quarter so we can present to you before Thanksgiving.
Mr. Reed had a question.
Just because, like, I'm in the school still.
Good reason.
With the whole, like, changing the time periods, I kind of like the idea. Is there a way to push it off to the 2016, 2017, since we've already started meeting and scheduling, and we've already, like...
We froze scheduling. So we froze scheduling.
Re-meet with everybody.
We won't renew with everyone. We froze schedules. The scheduling stopped for a significant amount of the population. Now, some students will have to be revisited with their counselors, but until we can get direction on this issue from the school, we stop scheduling. So that's where that is. And that's why it's a little bit relevant on which levels we actually go. Who are we impacting and how we clarify that. So we'll begin to take action once we get a direction.
Mr. McKnight, in regard to the time, the passing time between periods, I know we had a little discussion about this. It's 4 minutes on your proposal, and I believe, is it 4 minutes at the high school now, or is it 3 minutes?
Is it 4?
Okay.
It's exactly the same.
Is 3 pushing it? Okay, all right, and I'll stop.
So I want to end, if there are no more questions, with, it's all about motivation to me. It really is. And so if you want to build a ship, don't drum up people to cut wood, don't assign them task and work, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. I love that quote because if we can impassion our teachers and our students at that level, we're going to have a fantastic place to work and be. And I really believe that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McKnight.
Mr. McKnight, are there any specific obstacles that you've identified in your short period of time at Daniel Boone that the board should be aware of that we may be able to help facilitate, other than this issue of the scheduling and number of periods per day?
I think it's really too soon for me to really say. I think we're finding things. We're addressing them as a team. I have to give Mrs. Weber a lot of credit. She's been really helpful to me because, honestly, guys, I don't know anybody. I don't know any, so she's been a real guidepost for me in terms of getting around and understanding things. And so that's been very helpful and supportive. Mr. McGregor also has been, as you know, his 2 daughters are in the school. He's been an ace. I think really it's about building procedures. I mean, that's the one. I don't know that you guys can do anything with that, but what I'm saying is that there's a ton of practices that are not formalized. Okay, it's a lot of handshake deals. And I don't mean like backdoor shady stuff. I just mean it's just agreements. So we're formalizing those pieces, and I think that helps with the transparency long term. That we can say this is the procedure, because boards make policy, buildings make procedures to execute on the things that we want to do. So, but I won't hesitate to ask. I mean, you may sense that about me, that if I feel there's something that we can advocate for kids, I'm going to come and ask you and tell you that this will help clear the way to do those things. And you guys have to make some hard choices on what we can and can't do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take it that's all the questions and comments from the board. Mr. Kurtz, you wanted to make a motion, I believe.
Sure. As coming out of the curriculum committee, we have a few motions. One of them we've talked about discussing earlier, so we can discuss that then. But the first motion, this is what I'm moving. A motion to approve proposed high school bell schedule B as proposed by Mr. McKnight.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Kurtz, second by Mr. Doty to approve the schedule preferred presented by Mr. McKnight. Comments or questions?
I'm going to list that as 17A.
17C.
17C. What am I listing this under?
17B, which was the high school.
Okay, which one is it? I heard A, B, and C.
No, 17B is the high school change presentation, so these are motions based on that.
So it's 17C.
B1, 17B1 perhaps?
Okay.
There could be a series of them.
However,
It's 17C.
whatever's easier for you and consistent with your practices, what I would recommend.
It's 17C.
I'm going to listen to Ms. Kramer.
That's a good.
Good advice. Okay, so the motion is to approve Schedule B as presented by Mr. McKnight.
Correct.
Was there a second?
Yes, Mr. Turvey.
Motion by Mr. Kurtz, second by Mr. Doty.
No comments?
Comments or questions? No.
Okay, this will be a unanimous vote by the board, unless I hear votes to the contrary. Mrs. Bites, we have a motion by Mr. Kurtz and second by Mr. Doty to approve the Schedule B as presented by Mr. McKnight.
Thank you.
And this will be a unanimous vote for approval unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion approved.
Mr. Kurtz?
Thank you. Second motion, a motion to approve the restructuring of high school course levels as proposed by Mr. McKnight.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Kurtz, second by Mr. Doty.
So then that would be the AP honors and then just the
Academic.
Well, three labels, as Mr. McKnight said, and then he'll label them
That could be his discretion.
at his discretion.
It doesn't spec, the motion doesn't specify.
No, I understand, but I think it's important I think there's a, to Mr. Basil's point and everything else, I think there's a clear distinction between whether we have AP or not, and have it as honors. And it sounds like the AP marketing has kind of made the system of having honors with AP tests kind of
outdated.
Yeah. Sorry to make us feel older, but
I'm just wondering whether we need whether it's honors then, whether you just your AP or your accelerated and then academic.
Can we just motion?
But we motion to.
Can we just motion
3 levels as opposed to
for tonight?
5 or 4?
Yeah, the motion that I made and was seconded by Mr. Doty was motion to approve the restructuring of high school course levels as proposed by Mr. McKnight.
But as proposed by Mr. McKnight, it's very specific. We're saying maybe you want to leave it more general.
Well, he didn't really specify, on the piece of paper it was specific, but he also said that, I don't think there's a problem with it. I guess, do you want to come to a consensus tonight with the label them?
Well, you might want to leave open the option of the AP part because each year there may not be, it could be something that may not run one year, but there would be enough student interest to where we had large enough numbers in that AP class. So I wouldn't want you to eliminate it completely.
Why not just say 3 levels? Obviously, there's not an AP class for every
Correct.
Every area.
Right.
So.
What came out of the curriculum committee discussion was 3 levels, AP, honors, and then academic/college prep. Calling them those 3 levels. That was after some
So
discussion.
potentially are there only 2 levels for certain classes?
If there's no AP offered, I think there would be.
Okay.
You know how she was saying about how like the difference between AP and honors? I think there's more of a like similarity between accelerated and honors classes. They like combine that. So I took accelerated PUD this year and honors this year last year, and it's not much of a different level.
Between accelerated and honors.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying. We're condensing essentially accelerated and honors.
Yeah.
So you have your academic/college prep, then you have honors, and then you have AP. So we are pretty much doing what you're suggesting.
I'm thinking Mr. McKnight made a presentation based on experience he's already had at several school districts, and I still think we leave the labeling up to him.
All right, so Mr. Doty agrees. I agree. We won't rephrase the motion then. So that's what we'd like to have voted on. Leaving it up to Mr. McKnight to come up with the proper labeling for the courses, but reducing it from 5 to 3.
So can you read the motion again?
Yes. Motion to approve the restructuring of high school course levels as proposed by Mr. McKnight.
Second.
Other comments or questions? Hearing none, Mr. Basil?
This will be a unanimous vote for approval unless I hear any votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
All right, now I have one final motion, and this is the one where we might have a little bit of discussion. Motion to approve the AP Human Geography and Writing Springboard courses as proposed by Mr. McKnight.
As a pilot program?
I'm sorry, yes. Let me rephrase that motion. Motion to approve the AP Human Geography and Writing Springboard as pilot programs proposed by Mr. McKnight.
Second that.
Motion by Mr. Kurtz, second by Mr. Doty. Comments or questions?
My only comment was I didn't think we talked about the Writing Springboard.
We did.
I thought we were, you in fact wanted to get some more information on that.
Well, right. I said I wouldn't mind getting more information on it. I will, if Mr. Doty agrees, I'll withdraw the Writing Springboard from the motion, and we'll just vote on the AP Human Geography. No, that's a good point. Right. I mean, between all the meetings we've been having, I've been,
Very good.
No, but that's a good point, Mr. Rathke. The rest of us know nothing about the second course.
I'm sorry, I was a little bit quick to make my motion. I will, if Mr. Doty is amenable to a friendly amendment, I will withdraw Writing Springboard from that motion. Is that good, Mr. Super?
That's fine. Mr. Doty agrees.
Great. Comments or questions besides Mr. Rathkins?
I guess I have a couple of questions. As a pilot program or as an AP program, Mr. Subers, the district can withdraw this program at any time, its discretion?
Yeah, sure. I mean, considering scheduling and student commitments and whatnot, but yeah, you're not permanently committed to this, to any curriculum offering. And this is a pilot program, so you're just committing to it for 1 year, I would assume.
That was going to be can we say we're committing to it for this year, but next year it would have to come back for approval?
Okay, that's the intent of the pilot.
Okay. Well, I know.
Well,
it'll be in the course guide.
That's what it said, but practice is a whole other.
We approve the course guide each year, so we're going to see these.
Okay, you're approving a course guide that's, X number of pages long.
We also have 36 classes with less than 10 kids in it, so.
We're aware that we'll be on the lookout. We're not going to try to steamroll the board. Like I'm saying, that isn't good for the board.
Who's he work for?
I don't think that's what the intonation was at all. I think that what I've witnessed as being a board member for a long time is something's introduced and then it becomes embedded into the district permanently, whether that was the intent or not. So I don't think it's an invalid question to ask. Is this just for 1 year and then it has to come back before the board, maybe as a separate item? Hey, look, the pilot program's over and you're voting on this now. I mean, there's going to be new board members that are going to be sitting in these seats maybe next year, and I don't think that's an unfair question.
No, it's not at all. I think you consider amending the motion to a 1-year pilot program.
Sure. Mr. Doty, do you agree?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
clarify.
Yeah, the administration is going to propose the course selection guide. Like they always do, they'll evaluate how this works, and if they want to include it, they can. We can have a discussion.
I think we'll have to do a report on it.
But this way it's in the minutes as a 1-year
yes,
pilot.
I mean, I understand.
Can you do a roll call vote on it?
Other comments or questions? Mr. Basil, do you have more questions?
No. We ready for a vote?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Doty?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mr. Rathke?
Yes.
Mr. Speed?
No.
Mr. Radowski?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
No.
Mr. Basil, no. Mrs. Bites?
No.
Mr. Martino?
No.
Motion does not pass, 5-4.
Moving on to presentations by the public on any issues.
I keep talking, I'm sorry. 2 things. One, this is just a student observation. Lately, we've been having a lot of snow, in case you didn't notice, and teachers have been asked to stay after students have left. But not only have they been asked to stay till like an extra half hour like a normal day, they've been asked to stay till like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, and whatever time they're supposed to leave when there's not hazardous weather. And my question simply is, if it's hazardous for the students to be going home, why is it not hazardous for the teachers? Why aren't we like honoring our teachers and letting them go home when the roads are so bad? Like, what is it?
Two answers. One, first of all, it's a contractual issue, so we really can't discuss it with you. But secondly, the students are dismissed early because of the buses. The buses we have concerns that the buses have to travel multiple routes and make multiple stops, whereas the teachers go directly home.
And then, for the calendar, for the August start, in future, I think August, like when I started in August, I loved it because we like gradually eased into school. And I know it's a hassle, especially for teachers, and they have to start earlier, and it's a huge hassle. But I just want to say, like, as a student, we loved starting in August. So I know it's too late for this coming school year, but just future reference.
I like to agree with you on that.
Yeah. This is what Alyssa and I were discussing.
Teachers go through, like, the first few days, they go through course selection and, like, what are we learning and books and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, from doing all different kinds of starting September and August, it's always easier for us to start in August because you go for, like, that week and you get, like, all the course selection and books and all that done, and then you come back and just jump right into school and just keep going from there.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Comments? Thank you.
Laurel Reno, 367 Buckhead Lane. There were a couple of things that the students mentioned that I wanted to jump on. First of all, Ella was way too modest. At Odyssey of the Mind, there are 2 special awards that they give out. One is called the Omer Award, and the judges who are watching all of these competitions all day nominate students for this award, which embodies those people who went over and beyond what Odyssey is about. And Ella won one. So it was a huge honor, and there were 2 of them, and one of our, I believe she's an elementary student, she was the other one that won. She's a middle school student? No, thank you.
What's that name?
What is her name? So that's a huge honor to win something like that, and she didn't mention that, so I wanted to make sure you were aware of it. The other thing, I have a daughter who will be getting her license soon. I love the idea of bringing back traffic safety. In order to go from a junior license up to a regular license, you have to have classroom work. I realize the whole budget thing, that's why we cut it. When I was, way back when, our high school offered it as a summer class that you paid for. You paid for your materials, you paid for the time of the teacher, you got your classwork work done. Way back then, they also took you out driving. I think it would be a huge benefit to the students of this district if we could offer back that traffic safety course so that we're not out searching for somewhere else to get that classwork time, or just wait until our child is 18 before they can bring someone other than just their sibling in the car with them. The other thing was, will you be posting the calendar that you just voted on? Okay, thank you. And I know it was mentioned a little bit about the governor's budget and how the extra money and how it has to be spent on bringing back things that were cut. And it's my understanding from the newspaper that the superintendent would have to submit a letter to the district or to the Department of Education on what that money would be spent on. And I'm wondering if that will be shared with the public as to what our district would be using the money if the budget passed and if it's all allocated and the whole thing.
That's a good question. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Once we.
I have a question because I just had to sign on my son. The IU does offer through online course that you pay for.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't.
Oh, I'm paying for the driving lessons, so.
It does give you the same as,
Right.
It's not offered through school here, it's on the online course.
Right. Thank you.
Ms. Reno, let me just make one comment on Mrs. Torsh's answer, and that's what the district submits as to how they would spend the money could change depending on what money actually comes forward.
Oh, absolutely. I understand that. I'm just, it's a wish list. What would we spend
That's
this wish
exactly
list
what
on?
it is. Yes,
Yes,
thank
perfect.
you.
Thank you.
Debbie Lanzo, 102 Kettle Lane, Augusta. Many employees of the Daniel Boone Middle School cafeteria are aware that the district is currently accepting bids for a new food service contract. We are also under the understanding that the cafeteria employees may or may not be included in the new contract. Most of us working in the cafeteria have been here for a number of years. We have seen our own children go through the district, and some presently have children attending. Our commitment to the teachers and students is invaluable. We are familiar with not only the industry, but each individual child and teacher. Catering to all the likes and dislikes and allergies of everyone is a challenge and something we do best. We are an integral part of the community since most of us also live and work in the district. The trust and understanding developed in this way is not something you can put a price tag on or assume is just part of the job. If you choose to accept the bid and carve us out, please note that you will not know who will be serving your children and teachers. Will those individuals be kind, considerate, caring, or committed? Even though it's just a brief time the students interact with us, it is very important to them. Our smiles and kind words mean the world to a child having a difficult day. Our cafe, I'm speaking solely for the middle school cafe, is mostly self-sufficient and works extremely well within the guidelines provided to us. Carving us out and allowing strangers to do our jobs will not provide a positive experience or atmosphere. Therefore, less children and teachers will purchase meals, and that would result in a loss of monies to the district. When having your negotiations and discussions, maybe you should consider coming and visiting us at the middle school cafe. Then you will be able to see firsthand how we operate on a daily basis. We believe you will be impressed. Years ago, the food service was operated internally within the district. Maybe you should reconsider bringing the food service back to its original home. Please consider this statement carefully when making your decision. We are an asset to the district, not a liability. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, part of the requirement was when you read a statement that the board gets a copy. Could we have a copy of that, please?
Sure, sure, I read it.
Are there any other presentations by the public?
My name is Elizabeth McMullen. I live at East 6th Street, Birdsboro. I have a question. I was informed that the district is accepting bids from food service contractors till April 30th. When is the deadline date for you guys to make your decision on who you're going with?
I'm not sure. Mr. Small, can you answer that?
The bid opening is scheduled for April 30th. The contract, if the board approves any of the contracts that are the RFPs that are received, has to be in place by July 1st.
So then when will we know what's actually going on with our jobs?
Between April 30th and July 1st. That's when the action will be taking place.
If they open the bids April 30th, it would have to be presented to the board at whatever the subsequent meeting is. The board would then have to consider the recommendation and vote on it at some point. So the earliest would be mid-May if the bids are open April 30th. So probably mid-May or by mid-June.
That you'll know your decision.
Yes.
And then we'll know what's actually going on about us.
As soon as the board has a proposal to consider and votes on it, yes.
Barry Templin, 2032 East Main Street, Douglasville. Back when they first outsourced the food service management, I called around a lot of places in Harrisburg. And I talked to a lot of the school districts that did take completely outsourced. They couldn't wait until they got out of it because the loss of money, the bad working relationships they had with these people. So please, before you decide to outsource anybody, realize just what you have. It's not always, the grass isn't always green on the other side. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Temple.
Wendy Sweet, 856 Oak Street Road, Bristol, PA. Sorry you're hearing from so many Sweets, and I apologize for that. I feel like when I get up and stand in front of anybody here, I'm at risk of losing my job. I am a former teacher. I am a certified guidance counselor. I work as an instructional aide in the district. I have spent numerous hours, probably thousands of hours volunteering in the district. I can attest to the fact that these people who work in the cafeteria are not just serving food. If you can remember the horrific nightmare that lunchtime is, especially, my passion is special ed, our special ed kiddos. These ladies reach out to those kids. When they need a letter sent home that says there's no money in their account, these ladies do it with dignity. They afford our students smiles. They afford our students the courage to go up and get their own food. For our special ed kids, if you're going to talk cohort grouping, which we have to do, thank you, Ed Rendell, going back all the way to GCEs, this is the way it's going to be now. We have to get these kids through. They have to get through in their cohorts. Kids drop out because of lunch, because of recess, because of buses. Lunch is a horrific nightmare. To walk in, order food, have a smile, have someone who encourages you. Ask how many of them go to sports games. Ask how many of them go to Buddy Ball. And if you don't know Buddy Ball, don't be on this school board. Go to Buddy Ball. Know our special ed kids, okay? These people are at these events. They are also at our extracurricular events. They are also at our community, talking about integrating the community. When our community have fundraisers and use our buildings, these ladies are the ones who are in the cafeteria serving food because we have to meet safe food handling guidelines. These are the ladies who are there on the weekends. If you outsource, ask what options are available for that. Are they going to know our special ed kids? Not all our kids' faces say, "Hi, I'm special ed, I need more time. I can't make change and I'm giving you money. I don't know how to read this letter you're giving me." Not all of those outsourced people are going to be able to do that. These people can. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sweet. Are there any other public comments?
Hi, my name is Taylor DeLanzo, 102 Kenna Lane, Douglasville. As a recent graduate of Daniel Boone High School, I would like to share with you my thoughts regarding the possible elimination of the current cafeteria staff. It would be sad to see all these wonderful, hard-working women lose their jobs. Throughout my years at Daniel Boone, the cafeteria workers were kind, respectful, helpful, thoughtful, and sometimes shared a joke or two. So if I was having a bad day, I looked forward to lunch, not only because it was my downtime, but one of their smiles would make my day a little bit brighter. Unfortunately, some days those were the only smiles I would receive from anybody. A smile and a laugh can go a long way. I have built many personal relationships with teachers and staff throughout my time at Daniel Boone. I still keep in touch with most of them. I feel that the cafeteria workers should keep their jobs because not only they are hard workers, but because they care about the school and community. They look after the students and teachers and always make sure everyone is happy. If I were still a current student, I would not want a stranger serving lunch to me. These women have always given their best as people and workers and deserve the same amount of respect in return. These workers work just as hard as any other staff member in this school district. These are quality women that provide quality service to the district. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Could you also provide a copy of that, please?
This is the only copy that I have.
Taylor, have Mom email me.
Okay.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.